Om Shanti, and good morning, everybody. It's really extremely special to be sitting here in the gathering of this huge world family. And I have an image in my mind that it's like Bubba has called us from all different corners of the world. Do you feel that? That we all come running at this time when Bubba is coming. And I think today, Daddy Janki, I think Daddy Guzar, Sister Genti, they're all arriving. So it's like all the family coming home because, of course, in 2 days' time, Bubba will be with us. And I don't know about you, but I think when Bubba comes for the first meeting of the season, what does he often ask? What question? What does he ask? Have you done your homework that I gave you? Can everyone remember the homework? Can you remember? Actually, Bubba gives us so many things to do. But for me, what I took last year, and it was actually the first Murli of the season, when Bubba was praising the service we were doing. But Bubba said that children do two things simultaneously. As you speak, do you remember the language Bubba used? I loved it. He said, give rays of peace through your mind. Give rays of joy through your mind. Give rays of love. Do you remember Bubba saying that? And what really touched me was that Bubba said that if we do that service, that you will be man above. It's like a natural way of feeling close to Bubba, and your sanskaras will change. Do you remember that? It's almost like Bubba saying that if we keep my mind clean with these thoughts of benevolence and service, that automatically I feel close to Bubba, and this whole change, this process of change, which we're all involved in the confluence age, takes place automatically. But also Bubba, that I heard, was asking us again, as he does every year, children, how far have you transformed your sanskars? Is that a good question? I think each time Bubba comes and asks, and you know, the method is to have quality remembrance, quality yoga. And I think this is a lifetime journey for all of Bubba's children to ascertain, for me, what really is quality remembrance. Because so many times I think we sit and we don't want to climb up the steps of the ladder. We want to go straight to the top of the ladder without building the proper process or creating the internal environment which produces a very deep and loving link with Bubba. And to me, you know, in my journey of Brahmin life, at different points of time, different situations happen where I question myself. You know, really, what is the quality of my meditation? If the ultimate aim of this study is to have an unadulterated, perfect link with Bubba, how far have I gone there? What is the quality of my yoga? It's a big question for me. Is it a question for you? I think it's a question in the mind of every Brahmin. And sometimes I love to sit and just ask my heart, you know, why did I come? Why did I come to Bubba? Ultimately, I recognize it's time to change and to become pure. The next question, why am I still here? I think it's the same answer. Because I want to change, I want to become pure. The method is yoga. And so many times You know, when I reflect on my Brahmin life and the conversations in the family, because that's the beauty of this family, is the sharing. Often what I hear is that I love Bubba deeply. I'm absolutely committed. I follow all the principles. I do service day and night, and yet, do I really feel I've done the work of this, the deep work of this life, to develop that quality of connection that shifts myself on that really deep level? And one of the stories which I love, and you may have heard this because it's a common sort of story around the Brahmin family, was about Daddy Prakashmani in 1968. If you do a little bit of mathematics in your mind, it was the year before Brahma Bubba left his body. And what I heard was that Bubba had a seminar in the history hall in Madhaban, and he invited all the seniors, and the seminar was on remembrance. I really love it. You know, we have seminars on management and seminars on this and that, but Sakha Baba held this seminar on remembrance, and he asked all the seniors, you know, how much do you remember Baba? In a day, how much do you remember Baba? And he went around the whole room and he came to Daddy Prakashmani, and it was 1 year before Daddy was to become, you know, Baba selected her as the main instrument to carry on his work in the world. And Baba said, Daddyji, how much do you remember Baba? And Daddyji said, 1 hour a day. Actually, when I heard that, it made me feel better. I don't know about you, but Baba praised her for her honesty. And I thought about that because to me, there's different grades or quality of yoga. I remember once a few years ago, 2 or 3 times Baba said, children, it's not that you're body conscious, and it's not that you're soul conscious either, but you're action conscious. Do you remember that? And this is really, I think, the culture of our life today, you know, doing. But if you look at the seed of everything we do, most of it's because we love Baba. It is like a very low-grade form of yoga. We're doing something because we love Baba. It is creating my fortune, but it's not changing me. The second grade I often think of is indirect, what I call indirect remembrance. And this is really when I'm thinking about Baba, I'm thinking about Baba's knowledge, I'm thinking about Baba's qualities, I'm thinking about Baba's powers. Actually, that quality of churning sustains me. It does keep me light, it does keep me easy, but it's not transforming me. It's not actually shifting something deep in the soul. Sometimes in my Brahmin life, many times I ask the question, am I really having a connection with Baba, or am I just thinking about Baba? Am I just sitting there having quality, elevated thoughts? They're pure thoughts, and they do sustain me. Or is the soul really lost in this deep, loving connection with one? There's a difference. And many times I think what we say is yoga is more this indirect remembrance. Because I would say the third level is this direct connection with one. When I become a bodiless soul and I lose myself in Baba, I absolutely lose myself, my intellect, my mind, my sanskaras, my remembrance. Everything is lost in that remembrance of one. The soul's so absorbed. We go out of my old self, and it's like it's this quality that begins to shift something. And I think when Daddyji was responding to Baba, she was talking about this third quality, this absorption in one, this unadulterated connection. Because I asked myself, you know, how much do I have the quality of just, you know, action consciousness? Yes, I'm doing it for Baba. It gives some benefit. How much is my remembrance more the indirect type? And how much in a day do I have that unadulterated link with one? Because in a sense, it's this quality that's going to shift something within me. And yet when I sit down and think about how I'm meditating, what is the quality of my yoga, I begin to think that really yoga's like the pinnacle of my Brahmin life, and each aspect of my Brahmin life is contributing to this ultimate connection with one. And, you know, sometimes I think of it as cooking, like cooking a cake. Sometimes we just want to eat the cake, but we actually have to get the ingredients, we have to mix them together, and we have to cook the cake before we eat it. It's like we want to jump to the top without building a really profound platform that produces quality meditation. Because what I've really found is that if we go along for a period of time battling in my head, I sit to remember Bubba, but a lot of obstacles come, difficulties come, unprocessed feelings. All of us carry, you know, what I often find in life, you know, you interact with many people, this person says this happens, I'm busy. I don't have time to process my feelings. I sit to meditate, and what happens? Onto the screen of my mind, these feelings emerge, and I start to process them. Actually, I need to do that at some point, but not when I'm sitting to meditate. Because either the habitual pattern of processing life develops, or even I get to a point where it seems so hard to have this purity of connection that subtly I start to feel yoga's difficult, you know, and I'm not very good at it, and so I fall back into the old pattern of seeking success through action. In other words, service becomes my focus, because I know how to do service and I know how to get the results, you know. I do something and I feel good, I feel happy, someone gives me some acknowledgement. Whereas sometimes yoga is challenging. And subtly I feel if there's a lack of success meditating, then I start to look for it back into action, and service really takes over. And I tell myself in many subtle ways, I give myself excuses why I need to do action rather than perhaps really pursue that quality of meditation. And these days when someone asks me and says, well, I'm finding meditation difficult, you know what I feel is look at the other 18 hours of the day. Actually, that's the secret to why meditation is difficult. Because you think about it, there's such a deep relationship between my thoughts and my actions. What I do is going to influence what I think. And so my doing during the day is going to really influence my thinking when I sit to meditate. How many times have you got a little bit, you know, if during the day I'm a little bit frustrated, I get a little bit upset, I gossip about somebody, you know, I get a little bit angry. When I sit at night, can I meditate? I don't think so. And this is the incredibly, I think, deep philosophy which Bubba is really teaching us. And he's saying, really, children, if you want to have that quality of connection, that unadulterated connection with one, look at each and every aspect of my life. And sometimes Bubba likens the highest form of yoga with the volcano stage. You know, a few years ago, different times, Bubba calls it volcanic yoga, where it's like we create the fire that transforms the soul. So I wonder, you know, how is your volcano? How's your volcano? Is it active? Is it smoking a bit? A little bit? Just a little bit of smoke? Is it erupting, burning and firing? Is it dormant? Do I sit and nothing much happens? Who experiences all of those stages? Can I ask? I think a lot of us do. It's normal, actually, because I think ultimately to bring, in living in a world of so much distraction, to be able to bring my intellect and have unadulterated focus on one is the essence of truth and knowledge. And this is why, for me, I feel to build the volcano step by step. It's like I start from the foundation and I build the layers step by step. It's like I'm creating a logical process to bring myself to the point where the fiery form, the powerful form, the highest form develops. And this is why, for me, the first step is building a foundation. And to me, it's almost like underpinning meditation is awareness of two things. A few years ago, Bubba said, he talked about the two principles of freedom, which I really love. They're like the two principles that free my intellect for this process of relationship with Bubba. The first principle is mine is one Shiv Baba and none other. I don't know much Hindi, but Mera to ek Shiv Baba dusra na koi. I know that because when I was early in Gyan, I used to sing that song. There's a song, and somehow I learned that song, and Daddy used to make me sing it, and occasionally she still asks me. And you know, my first meeting with Bubba, was in the history hall in Pandav Bhavan, and I sat in front of Bubba. I was 2.5 months in Gyan. You could imagine. I'm not sure what that was, but... Oh. Now maybe we should cool down the volcano of remembrance. That was extremely dramatic. My first meeting, and in those days we'd have personal meetings, and Bubba would speak the muli, and we'd come and sit in front of Bubba, and Bubba gave me long drishti. And then he asked me 2 questions. Now you can imagine I was 2.5 months in Gyan, and the first question was, do you have one Shiv Baba and none other? And I went, yes. Because in front of Bubba, it's this amazing, Bubba makes you feel you can go there. And then the second question Bubba asked me, are you stable on drama? I was 2.5 months in Gyan. I said yes. Because, you know, I should have definitely said no, but it's like the power of Bubba's faith in the soul makes you feel you can move there. But I often feel that when I understand the depth of this, it's like when I sow the seed of one Baba and none other in the depth of the soul, that seed starts to network with the original pure sanskars. You know, often I think how to really bring purity into the soul after 2,500 years of all sorts of things. I feel to sow the seed of all relationships with Baba is the most powerful point of spiritual knowledge. The second thing, the second principle that Baba talked about, the principle of freedom, was that, you know, Baba, everything is yours. It's almost like stepping away from this accumulated account of I and my, freeing myself from the account of, you know, bodily relationships, freeing myself from the account of I and my, To me, in a sense, it's not that I'm really there perhaps yet fully, but holding those thoughts deeply underpin the beginnings of yoga, because they're ultimately essential ingredients as I build the volcano. The second thing for me is preparing the ground. And I would say this is lifestyle. My lifestyle is perhaps the way of describing this. And there's 4 things that Bubba often talks about. Firstly, Srimat, which is not being pulled by inaccurate actions. Secondly, perhaps surrender, which is not being pulled by the things of value. We all have things. We all bring things of value to Brahmin life. We bring our skills, our talents, our wealth. Third is renunciation, which is not being pulled by the rubbish that I bring. Not being so influenced by the rubbish that the soul brings. And fourthly, virag, or disinterest, which is not being pulled by the world. In a sense, what Bubba is doing, he's preparing our intellect to step away from all these things which have chronically, like a magnet, pulled my intellect away from the destination that I really want to travel to. And he starts to educate ourselves in a natural way. Because sometimes when we hear these things, it just feels a bit technical or overwhelming. And the one I've really become interested in, perhaps just recently, is surrender and renunciation. Because, can I ask, who has read the Renunciation Mulis? Can I ask those who've read the Renunciation Mulis of the early 1980s? Wow, that's amazing. There's only about 5%, if that. This was, in a sense, to me, a changing point in my Brahmin life, because I can remember the second time I came to Madhaman, Daddy Jenki said to me, as I took leave from her, she said, and I may be paraphrasing her, she said, "You are loving, but now become powerful." And I remember thinking, how do I become powerful? Because at that point, many things would influence me. You know, I think we all know how easily we are influenced. So easily. The Renunciation Mulis came along a few years ago, and there were 7 Mulis where, to me, Bubba outlines the real method, ultimately what this life is about, in a step-by-step form. It just opened my eyes. And in a sense, like I was saying, surrender is of the things I bring of value. All of us come to Brahmin life. We have skills, we have talents, we have experience, we have achievements, we have wealth. Renunciation is the rubbish, the negativity, the body consciousness, the ego, the desires. We bring both of them. And what I've seen is that sometimes we recognize, Bubba, I've come home. This is where I belong. I'm a Brahmin. And as soon as I do that, I surrender, because I feel this is truth. And I feel comfortable to surrender the things of value. And very quickly, many of us give our skills to Bubba. We even give money to Bubba very quickly. But then we begin the process of renunciation. And sometimes that's not so easy. Trying to deal with my stuff, my rubbish, my ego, we battle. We're not so successful. And we can come to a point where we feel a bit empty. It's like I've moved away from the world, I've surrendered what I bought from the world, but I haven't really achieved the success, you know, in renunciation. And that's sometimes an uncomfortable place to be for a Brahmin. Actually, it's just a sign that I think Bubba wants us to really go deeper into renunciation. Bubba has a little formula that renunciation plus surrender equals trustee. And this is the method for progress, that I use everything but without attachment or dependence. That's really the way, because it is laying the platform that those things don't pull me, whether negative or positive. And surrender, Bubba defines, I remember once Bubba said that surrender is using everything I have according to Bubba's directions. And when we come to Bubba, I often feel like I'm just a soul, but I have 6 resources. And if I use them according to the way Bubba wants, not the way I want, my life becomes divine. And they are my thoughts, my words, my actions, my time, my money, and my energy. And it's like Bubba gives us directions how to use them. And when I use them in that way, then that's really what Bubba said is surrender. But renunciation is the thing that really interests me at the moment. Because Bubba said renunciation is stepping away from the consciousness of mind. The things that pull me in yoga subtly are my feeling, my way, my. Stepping away from the consciousness of mind so I lose a right over that. Sometimes I have the idea that when we began in the cycle, the soul was naked, Just, I come down, the soul just naked of anything. And I just sit lightly on the forehead. And then as I take birth and rebirth, the soul begins to accumulate, especially from the copper age. We start to feel a bit insecure. And as we feel insecure, I start to say, I am this and this is my. And we build up this huge network by the end of the cycle. Actually, it makes me feel secure, These things give me security, and that's why we invest in them, because they do give me a temporary feeling of security. But at the same time, the more I have of them, the heavier I feel. They give me the temporary security on one hand, but on the other hand, the soul just feels burdened, heavy, weighed down, actually not happy. And this is how the soul has really, come at the end of the cycle. And yet Bubba said it's this renunciation that creates fortune. And in these maulis, Bubba in detail outlines 3 steps of renunciation that will create deep meditation. And when I'm in that state, Bubba calls tapasya, just my face, my vibrations, my life becomes service. Tyag, renunciation, tapasya, renunciation, seva. And the first step is this renunciation. And the first renunciation, of course, is of the body. And it's interesting, we're all here because we're Brahmins, and this is the first step in this life. Many times I ask, how far have I really taken this step? Bubba said that sannyasis renounce their home and they never go back, a true sannyasi. And Bubba said a true Brahmin renounces the home of the old body and never in thought should I take it back. This is the standard Bubba is teaching. Because Bubba's taking us, he offers us all the highest level. And Bubba was saying, what is the attitude of renunciate of the body? The attitude is that this body is Bubba's, and I'm just using it in trust. Actually, I'm the soul. I'm just using it in trust. And Bubba even, I think, gave the example of how he comes into Daddy Gozar, uses it and goes, uses it and goes. This is the sort of level that Bubba wants us to practice, because Bubba said, if we do that, we reclaim my authority back. I break body consciousness and establish a true state of soul consciousness, which means I move from a slave to a master. I let go all dependence. So this step is letting go all the dependence that I've built up, this first step of renunciation. And Bubba said, what is the sign of a soul who's a slave? What's a visible sign? There'll be some sorrow on their face. There'll be some sadness or sorrow on their face. They will get easily upset. And so in a way, if I'm still having sorrow, if I still get upset, all it's telling me is this first step is still in process. I still really haven't got to that real level of renunciation of body consciousness, because it's a lifetime learning. Bubba said the master, the sign of the master, always cheerful. Whatever, if it's a difficulty, if it's a person, if it's a situation, if it's a facility, no matter what, I never come down from that stage of self-respect. And so Bubba was saying, okay, children, we've collected, we've built up this body consciousness. To have deep yoga, the first step is to renounce the body. The sign that I've done that, I remain fairly constantly cheerful. How far have I really gone in this sort of first and fundamental step of this life? The second step that Bubba talked about was renunciation of my physical sense organs. And the way he put it was very sweet, because he said, what's the game of slaves? What is the game that slaves play? He said, when the mouse comes, the cat comes to chase it away. Do you remember this? When the cat comes, the dog comes to chase it away. And when the dog comes, what chases away the dog? Bubba said the lion or the tiger or something. What Bubba was actually saying, he said, sometimes the mouse is the eyes. So we're deceived by the eyes, and then the cat is the ears. We hear something. And then the dog is another sense organ. And ultimately the lion is my sanskaras. The way I understand that is really that these things keep taking over my mind. Just imagine your mind is this vessel of truth that you're trying to keep clean to connect with Bubba. And yet through one of the sense organs, the information comes that completely takes over and starts to drive my thinking. I see some nice food, and my mind becomes so engaged in that food. I see someone's body, and I begin to think about it, or I'm attracted by it. And so this inner world, the sense organs, take over and drive my thinking, take over this precious inner world. To me, in a sense, body consciousness, one way I'm thinking about it at the moment, all I do is chronically react to life. I see something, I think. And then I hear something, I think. And then I taste something, I think. I watch something, I think. A feeling comes up from the past. So my mind is constantly reacting and being driven by external influences, What is meditation? It's actually I'm starting to drive my thinking. I'm not bowing down to the sense organs and they keep taking over my inner world. Actually, I create the thoughts I want. This is soul consciousness. I sow the thought I want and the feeling I want. And when I observe something out there, I observe it. It doesn't penetrate my inner world and take over my thinking. As far as I feel, this is what Bubba means by becoming, starting to renounce the domination of the sense organs over my mind. Because Bubba said, when I do this, I won't be influenced or deceived. Because so easily, if I see someone attractive or the other side, it just deceives my whole thinking and it takes my thinking down a train. So the first step, the renunciation of the body. The second step, the renunciation of the sense organs. The third step, building the platform for that quality of meditation, was the renunciation of bodily relations. And in this, Bubba said, because Bubba talked, he was like educating us in the master class. He said, for this you have to become the destroyer of attachment. And what is the sign of one who's a destroyer of attachment? Bubba said, there's no attraction or no repulsion, either side. No attraction, but no repulsion. And first Bubba took up repulsion, and he was just saying, and you think about it, when somebody you're unhappy with, just think how they can dominate your inner world. As you walk along, you're thinking about how they've behaved or what they've done to you. As you sit in yoga, it's like I've bowed down and become a slave to that thinking. Then it's incredible. Even when I try to remember Bubba, the image of that person comes, not because I'm attracted by them, I'm, as Bubba put it in strong language, repulsed. What is the seed of repulsion? Bubba said it's a royal form of selfishness. Repulsion, anger, this resistance is a royal form of selfishness because I'm upset because they're not fully fulfilling my desire of how I want them to behave, Sometimes we're such controllers. We want people to behave in the way I like. And when you don't behave in the way I like, I reject you. I feel upset by you. I feel disturbed by you in that way. And in a sense, this repulsion or this annoyance, this chronic upset feeling in my mind about somebody is actually my own selfish desires about how I want you to behave. That was such an enlightening thought when Bubba said that. On the other side is attraction. And when I'm attracted, I bow down. I come under the influence. It's like the shadow of another soul is more powerful than the shadow of Bubba. And Bubba said that you can't really have yoga when the shadow of another soul is really over. He was just like saying it so clearly. And the sign, Bubba said, how can I tell if there is this attraction? Bubba said, a good test, a good touchstone is whenever I have a real problem in my life, a real issue, where does my mind first go to? Does it go to Bubba or does it go to this soul? Bubba said that's the touchstone to tell, how am I going? And so the destroyer of attachment isn't pulled on the attraction side or the repulsion side, really working to that level where I'm not pulled on either side. And Bubba said sometimes we have this little karmic game where we give support to somebody. And Bubba was saying we've come to settle our account, but sometimes we increase that account. We don't even realize. And Bubba said this little game where one takes support and one gives support. Because in this set of Murlis, it's like Bubba's taking us to such a high destination, because he was saying, children, if you really want the highest link, I've got to look honestly at all these aspects. How far have I really renounced the body? How far have I stepped away from the sense organs? And really, how far have I had the renunciation of bodily relations? Because this sets the it frees my intellect to be able to have that connection with one. And Bubba actually said there were 3 types of renunciates. And I love the way Bubba says, first is renunciates, the second is great renunciates, and the third are the greatest renunciates. He doesn't say the ones who aren't renunciates. We're all renunciates, because he said there's 3 households we have to renounce to have that quality of meditation. The household, the Lokic household, firstly. The household of the body, secondly. And thirdly, the household of service. And this was really interesting because what Bubba was saying was that the renunciates with knowledge and yoga begin on the path of moving away from the old world. And they do. But sometimes they're under the influence of Brahmin sanskaras and sometimes they're old sanskaras. And Bubba said there's two main obstacles for the renunciates. The first, I think, was that they haven't got really the courage to face obstacles. And the second is that they're drawn by comforts. And so Bubba said they are renunciates, but they go up and down. They fluctuate. The second, Bubba said, are the great renunciates, and they've renounced the household and the household of the body. They have a relationship with one Bubba, and they've mastered a lot of body consciousness. They're quite stable and quite happy in Brahmin life, but they've let go the iron chains, but they have the golden chains. Do you remember? Where I think, you know, I'm a pretty good teacher. I'm a good yogi, you know. You know, this sort of Bubba, I'm this and I'm that, you know, like a little bit of pride. And the greatest renunciates, the ones who've really even let that go and just feel, I'm just an instrument and Bubba is doing. Because I think that, you know, this second step of preparing the ground, really seeing how much have I done the work. Once I remember Daddy Gulzar said that during the day to live within the maryadas of yoga. And if I keep my mind in the maryadas of yoga, it's probably a more easy way of talking about this renunciation. Once again, when I sit, I can go beyond. The maryadas of yoga, to practice soul consciousness, firstly. Secondly, to churn knowledge. Thirdly, to have sweet conversation with Bubba. Fourthly, the seed stage. And what she was saying is, if I keep my inner world in those parameters, it's easy to let go at the end of a busy day and go beyond. But if I practice soul consciousness, and then I get a bit upset, and then I have a sweet conversation with Bubba, and then, you know, something else happens. You know, I get a bit body conscious, and I go in and out. When I sit once again, I'm caught in this game. So therefore, it's like what I do in the 18 hours of the day is crucial to the quality of my yoga. So the first step is laying the foundation. The second step is preparing the ground, you know. Perhaps following Bubba's directions, renunciation, etc. The third step, I would say, is generating the heat of the volcano. And that is love. The power of love is really the great power of this life. So it's like I've put in the preparation. You know, often I feel, you know, we search. You know, the ultimate aim of the human soul is we search for true love. You know, you think the subtext of life is I think all of us, we look for true love. And before we find Bubba, we invest our heart in relationships. But the law of life tells us that all relationships are temporary. The great dilemma of human life is that no relationship is permanent. And so whether it's change, whether it's separation, whether it's death, the object of my love goes. This has created so much upheaval. We, Bubba's children, come and we realize I've re-found my permanent lover. Bubba is always there. And this deep love, and sometimes I ask, am I in love with the concept of Bubba being the ocean of love, or am I really in love with Bubba? Do I really feel that connection? Because I remember once someone early in my Brahmin life said to me, you can only love someone who's lovable, you know? Because sometimes, I think we carry history. Sometimes it's a bit formal. We push Bubba away. Bubba's more of a concept, an idea, and so my mind becomes a bit tired. It's like I have to taste how attractive, how innocent, how lovable Bubba is, and allow myself to be loved. Often I feel, for me these days, what is meditation? It's just sitting in front of Bubba and giving myself permission to be completely loved by Bubba. Open myself. Allow Bubba's love to penetrate the soul. Because what is knowledge? To me, knowledge is seeing what is stopping that love. What's blocking that love? What is preventing me? If I'm sitting in front of the lover I've looked for so long, what's stopping me tasting it and feeling it? It's my own feelings, usually, of feeling unworthy, etc. I've got to work through it. Because what generates the heat is love, and that takes me beyond the body in a natural way. I become bodiless in a natural way. It's like I don't have to force myself. The love takes, the soul flies beyond the body. And, to me, Bubba, each season, once again, he keeps telling us, telling all of us, children, be bodiless, be bodiless. It's like, it's the fitness of Brahmin life. Often for me, I think that we study for years. We study knowledge every single day for 1 second's practice. To let go everything in 1 second, You think to let go the body, let go the relations of the body, let go service, let go responsibility. In 1 second, we've got to let go everything. Everything that's sustained me for 2,500 years. It's like I have to let it go in 1 second. That's the ultimate study, isn't it? I went through a period of time where I used to try to, when traffic control came, I used to try and let go and see if I got stuck somewhere. Have you ever noticed? Traffic control comes. We were laughing about this the other day in the thing, because sometimes the traffic control comes and you're thinking, when will it stop so I can get on with what I want to do? Let's be honest. That's how the mind is sometimes. We're so into the doing process. And yet, I observed, where do I get stuck? It's an indication where my accounts lie. Where am I pulled? Where does my mind go in this crucial time when I let go and I start the process to go beyond? Where do I get stuck? Because I really do feel that if I begin to lay the foundation, prepare the ground with an accurate Brahmin lifestyle, and I start to sit in love, I'm in this loving relationship with one Shiv Baba, I'm generating the heat, it takes me beyond the body. I really naturally experience the bodiless state. The next state is the burning, it's the fire. And this is like the state of silence, I would say, that Bubba often refers to. And it's almost the silence that revitalizes, burns, cleans. It's almost like I've prepared myself and my mind is now closed to the world. It's closed to everything limited of the past. I'm absolutely in tune with Shiv Baba. I'm in front of Shiv Baba. And it's like the purity of God can penetrate my inner world and act on my inner world and my sanskaras at that time. It's that silence where it's almost like minimal thought is happening. I'm resonating on the same frequency. I love the analogy sometimes that it's like Bubba's on the FM dial When I'm body conscious, I'm on the AM dial. I know the FM dial exists, but I can't tune in, you know? I've got to go up. I've got to be that absolute seed resonating on that same level as Bubba, the supreme seed. And in that, I think it's almost like I hear Bubba's voice. It's like I know what Bubba's telling me, what I need to do. And I have the confidence. And as I act on it, I get so much power. It's that absolute cleanliness of connection where I am just in front of Bubba as the supreme and I'm just his child. And it's almost like the past story begins to absolve in that purity of connection, that purity of love. But how do I get there? It's building myself. It's building it up to that phase. And I think it's almost like every aspect of my Brahmin life is contributing to that ability for the fire to burn and the link to be unadulterated. Many times I think even our relationships in the Brahmin family, you know, if they are difficult and I'm caught in the repulsion side of attachment, not the attraction side of attachment, and I'm caught up in that little world, that side scene, can I have a good connection with Bubba? I don't think so. It's like I've got to, each part, even my relationships will contribute to my ability to have this unadulterated connection, because ultimately this will bring the power back into the soul. What was that little formula that Bubba always says? Tiag, renunciation. I've renounced. There's that depth of yoga, which we just talked about, the silence, the resonating, the time when Bubba's working on the soul. Then my sanskaras are doing service. It's almost like, it's not so much service through here. Like Bubba's been saying, it's my face, it's my vibrations, it's my feelings, you know, which are really doing service. And that's, I think, that's the memory of last cycle, I think, isn't it? That we serve from such an elevated place. Now, sometimes I've sort of seen it as, you know, one step is from body conscious to Brahman. That's a huge step. You think of the change in Brahmin life, you know, to go from the old world and become a Brahman. I become Bubba's child. I've come home. This is where I belong. The next step is from Brahman to serviceable. I get totally engaged in Brahmin life. Most of us are in that phase, I think. I'm fully committed. But sometimes because of the golden chains of I and my part, my idea, my area, I get involved in all the conflicts and subtle, you know, stuff that goes on. The next step, from serviceable to angel. Letting go even the golden chains. Just, it's almost like letting go everything. I'm just a child of God. That's the ultimate sort of stage of renunciation that Bubba really wants. That, you know, I'm just an instrument. Really, Bubba is doing. And I think, you know, I often reflect, because I can sometimes relate to all the phases, to be honest. But I really think where the yug is in such a phase of doing an action, we're all in it, and it's good, and it has to happen. But the next phase is the service through the angelic stage. Am I ready? You know, am I really ready? Sometimes, you know, I think the world is invoking that. You know, the world really wants us to step on to that stage. Am I really ready? Do I have the courage? Because sometimes I think the greatest challenge for Brahmins is to accept our own greatness. And I don't mean in an ego way, but, you know, you think our part, to accept our own part, you know, in the drama. Because sometimes we say, no, 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 Bubba, that's not me. You know, that's not me. Maybe it's Daddy or someone like that, but that's not me. Really, I think the knowledgeful soul accepts that this is my part in the drama, to step up and play that part as the angel. How much have I really let go all the steps to reach that point? And in these renunciation mulis, Bubba outlined it step by step. And if you haven't read them, I really feel it's almost like such a clear formula as to what this life is really deeply about. What really is Raj Yoga? What really is the life to be Bubba's child? So I'm just watching the clock because it's going to be traffic control, and I don't know, what would you like? Shall we have traffic control? I thought to give a commentary. Shall we do a commentary? Or do you want to have questions? Okay, we can maybe have a little bit of both. So let's have our traffic control. And then maybe, I can't give a commentary during traffic control because I don't think you'll hear it. There we are. So the lights are on, so maybe we have some questions. So would anyone like to ask a question? Maybe I should ask that first. The question, what is the effort required to be soul-conscious? A lot. I don't know what your feeling is about this life, but I think that's as good a question as you can get, because for me, I feel that we don't do the deep work of soul consciousness. I really, during the Santawasi's retreat, Daddy Ratan Mahini gave a class about soul consciousness. And she described, and all of them said it was their favorite class, I think all those who were there. She described the atmosphere Bubba created at the beginning of the yajna. Because Bubba knows, we are the souls who are addicted to 2,500 years of body consciousness. How deep is it in us? It's so profound. And these are the dominant sanskaras in my life. And I think that I've been through different phases where, when I started, I was always thinking, I'm a soul, and I remember walking down the street and I'd look, you're a soul, who did that? Very cute, the days of childhood. And then I sort of got into all sorts of churning and things, but I came to Madhaban once and I looked. I'd been a BK for 10 years, and I asked myself honestly, how far have I become soul conscious? How far have I moved from the identity of being temporary to the identity of being permanent? How far have I moved from identifying with my mortality, with death, to really going beyond it? How far have I really identified with being eternal? And really, I felt I hadn't moved very far. And what I began to do was, and I probably shared this before, and I still do this, I do experiments in soul consciousness. To me, we're too superficial in this most fundamental lesson. I can't even connect with Bubba unless this is there. I can believe in Bubba. How subtle is the human soul? Sometimes I think even that's worth meditating on. There is nothing more subtle. It's incredible how unique the human soul is. I exist, but I have no real form or size. Get your mind around it. It's so amazing who I am. And I've got to create environments to explore the depth of these feelings, because it naturally brings my power back. And I've done all these experiments around the form of the soul, the nature of the soul, the identity of the soul, to try to go deeper. The way I often see it is that the way our learning is counterproductive to meditating, in the sense that we keep knowing facts and information, and we're very good at speaking them. But really, this life, spiritual learning, is the effort to experience deeper layers, you know. When I hear the word churning, I like to replace it with experiencing. When Bubba says churn this, Bubba means children, take yourself from the point of theory and massage it into your feelings so you experience it. I know I'm a soul. How long does it take to feel the depth of peace at every moment in life? This is the journey. And I think, you know, Bubba, there's not a Morley, Bubba doesn't talk about this. It's like constant attention. It really is, but sweet attention, enjoyable attention. That the reality is I'm just an eternal point, and this is a big game I'm playing. And I'm just wearing this particular costume, and it has a name. But I've got to become so detached from this, from all of the other actors, but lovingly detached, sweetly detached, to go back so that I have that objective truth about who I am. I think mostly we just believe it and we tell people. Because really, when I'm in that soul-conscious state, as I understand it, nothing will influence me. And an experiment that I did for a period of time, because I think for most Brahmins we love Bubba, but still little things upset us, little things affect us, little things influence us. And as I began to practice being incorporeal, it's my favorite one these days. In other words, identifying that I'm a non-physical being, I'm so different from this energy around me. And I've got to feel this sweet separation. Because when I taste the feeling of being incorporeal, nothing of the corporeal world can influence me. I'm in it, but I'm not affected by it. Just like Bubba. Bubba's incorporeal. He's in the world. Nothing influences Bubba. And this is the depth of soul consciousness. I think, you know, it's that soul-conscious vibration that's laying the foundation for the future golden-aged culture, which is to be soul-conscious. How far have I really moved, honestly? How deep is my practice? I think this is where attention, we really need to put that attention. And I think the effort is just, once Daddy Janki asked me, do you make much effort? And I said, no, but I pay attention. You know that little part of your mind that's just watching your inner world? That silent observer watching what's going on? I think that's always there, paying attention, that I don't let my mind go too far out of bounds, so to speak, the parameters of the Maryadas of yoga or the Maryadas of soul consciousness in that way, to keep it in that place. But this soul-conscious practice, to me, is so crucial to what this life is about. And I feel it's almost like worth saying that's the one focus. I'm the sort of person that feels, rather than trying to do too many efforts, you put your energy in too many directions, focus on one thing. And if I would focus on one thing, it would be the practice of soul consciousness. Because when I'm truly a detached soul, I'm in Bubba's world. I don't have to try to meet Bubba. I'm there. Bubba is there. I'm in Bubba's environment. Because he lives in that permanent soul-conscious state. If I even have a shade of body consciousness, there's a point of separation to my relationship with Bubba. It's so deep, the practice to me of soul consciousness. And sometimes I think, just what was the effort Brahma Bubba made, that he made such effort, attention, that one day the soul had settled all its account and it just decided to fly, you know? It's like, He decided. It wasn't because the account of the body had to die, the soul was ready to renounce the body. Quite an amazing, extraordinary thing. So,
Om Shanti. In Satyug, there is no incorporeal father. So do we become non-believers? And moreover, when there is no father, there will be no inheritance. So Baba talks about inheritance for 21 births. So how is it possible that when there is no father, there is no inheritance? So how 21 births inheritance will be available?
The inheritance is now, and the inheritance is peace, purity, and happiness. That's our inheritance. And it's an interesting question, because I suppose you'd say, and this might not sound right, but strictly speaking, the deities are atheists. Does that sound right? No, it doesn't really sound right. It's almost like they're natural yogis in a way. But isn't it amazing? They're just naturally so conscious. The effort of now sustains the soul for so many lifetimes. It's incredible.
Hi, Charlie. I was just wondering lately with churning, we can spend a lot of time thinking about knowledge and thinking about our actions, looking at ourselves and others in our daily life. And then I kind of wondered, when does churning become waste thoughts? Where do we draw the line? Because when we're so lost in thought, we lose the present moment as well. So where is that boundary?
When does churning become waste thought? It's an interesting one. I think there's two different things. There's churning and analysis. To me, churning is taking an idea, going so deep that I feel it. I experience it, I taste it, I become it. That's the journey what is meditation? Meditation's converting the theory into an experience. Sometimes we get stuck on the intellectual idea. Once I understand it, I know it. Actually, that's the beginning of thousands of steps. But the habit, I think, of many of our intellects at the end of the cycle is what probably I'd call over-analysis. We just analyze everything. There's a brother in Australia who often says to me, he calls it the paralysis of analysis. You get paralyzed by every little thing, the mind just overanalyzes. Actually, Bubba loves the ability to analyze, but he wants us just to do it in a second, to analyze in a second, rather than let the mind think too much. And that's why I think last season, another homework, full stop. Practice, because it's hard when I'm addicted to analysis. And it's an addiction. It's like an addiction. I can't stop. And a lot of meditation, just analyzing myself, my life, my problems, my issues. It's like a permanent state of mind, in a way. And I think that, it's like churning is extracting the truth of an experience from an idea. Once Bubba said that each point of knowledge has an associated experience. We have the point of knowledge of the soul, but the ultimate experience is peace. We have the point of knowledge of God, the ultimate taste or experience is love. What sustains me is the experience. And if it's just analyzing, it becomes dry, and I don't really feel something. So it takes time, because sometimes I've observed that we're educated to think in different ways. Sometimes our thinking, I often feel, we're taught rational thinking, where you take an idea and you logically take it A, B, C, D, and you come to a conclusion. And that science has taught that. That's good. Creative thinking. We love to be creative. And we take an idea and we let it grow and embellish. We really, let the idea flourish. That's also good. But experiential thinking, where we take an idea and I massage it into my feelings, that's really what meditation is. And sometimes we've lost that art. It's re-educating myself how to experience. I once asked Jagdish Bhai, who was the senior brother, what's the most important thing to sustain a Brahmin? And he said, new experiences. Otherwise, if we sit to meditate and we're just routinely repeating the same thinking, naturally we'll be bored. We will get bored. And then subtly I avoid meditating because I'm not enjoying it. I've got to be both, I do need that creativity, but I need to feel and experience. And that's an art form. I think it's an art form to be able to do that. That was what I would say is churning. Analysis is just this intellectual exercise which some people are brilliant at. And it helps us get information to give a talk. It doesn't necessarily help us to experience deeply in meditation. And sometimes I feel, the more I can become detached from the body, it's almost like a spiritual law, the more I can experience.
Shanti, I'd like to know if you think that during the meditation, if you have an experience to live in the golden age, am I transforming my sanskar in that experience or not?
Can you repeat the question? I didn't quite grab it, I'm sorry.
If during meditation
Yeah.
I'm living in the golden age, really living in experiencing golden age, who am I in the golden age? My stage of deity of the golden age, and so on. Am I transforming my sanskars in that moment or not? In this experience,
I believe so. And I believe this is why Bubba gave us that homework, another homework over the last few years of the 5 forms. One of the things of body consciousness is I get stuck in the present. I get so stuck in my present state of mind, my present feelings, my present set of sanskaras, all my problems, all my issues. And when we do the 5 forms, it's like we step outside this jail, because body consciousness just makes me so stuck in this reality I'm in now. And I taste this eternal sanskaras of the soul in its incorporeal state. I taste the original sanskaras of the golden age. I taste the Brahmin sanskaras, the angel sanskaras. The sets. Sometimes I think there's like little sets in the soul. But we're only accessing one set at the moment, which is my body conscious set. But with an intellect of knowledge, I can step out of that set and access. And so when I taste those feelings of the golden age, it's almost like I'm visiting that set of sanskaras. They become alive again, because that's the set that I'm moving towards at the moment. That's the set that's really going to sustain me. Otherwise, I don't know whether you practice that. Remember what did Bubba say, to 10 minutes of every hour? Was it 5 minutes to let? Yeah, 5 times. But it was amazing. I think Bubba was, we get so stuck in now and all, it becomes a reality. But this is only a reality. If you look at 5,000 year story, it's a little window of time, and yet I'm so caught up in this reality that's dominating my thinking and feeling and emotions, and yet Bubba's saying, no child, it's only a little time, be a bit light, step out, feel what it's like in other times in the cycle, and don't get so stuck in now. It's only a short time, this period of time. Anyway, I think we should wind up, and thank you everybody.